if you wanted to make a logo and like this amazing RW logo, like you know, my joke is like, try to not be intimidated by my amazing graphic design skills. Say if you're making this logo, your initials and stuff like that, and you want to figure out how to like animate a logo from Illustrator and take it from Illustrator into Premiere or After Effects. That's the gist of this tutorial. To get this, I've already set this up. I've got a lot of it already pre-cooked for everybody. But if you're doing that, just go into File. You can go New. And Illustrator gives you all these kind of like preset template-y things, film, video, different sizes there. I'm just going to go into Print quickly. And what I honestly, maybe because I've used this program for so many years and I'm a creature of habit, I don't like a lot of the new kind of template-y things they've done, but they're there. If you're watching YouTube tutorials and other people are doing it, you can learn tons from watching other people do things. So what you can do here back is, if you are going to be taking a logo or a graphic design and you're going to be moving it over into After Effects or Premiere, it's best to set up the width and the height of your document to fit whatever video format you're using. Be 4K, HD, whatever it is, right? Or now, you know, vertical video is popular. So you just do whatever pixel count that is. So I'm going to set this up for HD. So I'm going to go Pixels, and HD is 1920 by 1080. So you just go in and you do this. And now your document mirrors. Now this document is the same format and it mirrors what you're going to be doing with the video. So you don't have to worry about like compositional problems and all that. It's all, that's the format that you're going to be bringing into the video editor. Then you can start doing stuff like this. You know, start making your logo here. I'm making some basic shapes to show you something here, so I can do this really quickly. Right? I make 3 shapes here. And again, for those of you that have watched the Illustrator tutorials, there's no triangle in the shapes. So you pick the star tool, you hit the up arrow to add points to the star. The down arrow will get rid of points to the star. And if you keep hitting the down arrow, eventually you get a triangle. There's my triangle. There you go. So that's my quick logo for you. The reason I'm showing you this is because to prepare this to go into After Effects or Premiere, you need to separate things into layers. So down here, I'm going to make a few more layers, because as you're working in Illustrator, it's easy. These are called paths, and Illustrator will just kick it into one layer and have all the paths in one layer. If you don't make other layers here that layers function like folders in Illustrator. So you want to make those, and you want to drag these other parts into these other layer kind of folder things. And you need to separate them all like that. So then you basically save it as your Illustrator file. You have them all saved into separate layers like this. If you keep all the paths in one layer, what's going to happen is when you bring it into Illustrator or when you bring it, if you don't separate them like this, when you bring them into After Effects or Premiere, it's going to collapse it all into one layer and you won't be able to animate it properly. The other thing, let's say if you're using text, just to review this quickly, I'm going to make my initials here. Okay, they're buried here, so I'm going to drag the initials up here. And now you can see them, super small. So I'm going to crank that point up here. There you go. And you can go and you can fix or change the font styling up here, and all the font type is changed here, whatever it is that you want, right? But if you want to customize the font, you just right click and you create outlines, and then it takes the font layer and turns it into a shape. I'm going to zoom in here, and now it's a shape. You have anchor points outlining the shape. You can go to your white arrow tool and start dragging those things around and customizing the type layer now as a shape. So that's pertinent information for you as well. So if you are using type, that's how you do that. Right click, create outlines, get everything into layer folders here in Illustrator. File, save as, and you save it as your Illustrator file format. And that's that. I'm going to close this. I'm not going to bother saving it. So I've already saved all these and got all this prepped, and that's your kind of Illustrator overview of like creating layers and prepping your logo to go into an animation program. So I'm going to start in After Effects. Now, After Effects is a juggernaut of a program. It's very intimidating when you look at it, but when you break it down into, I want to animate a logo, it actually, the more you use it, is not that intimidating. But if you do find it's too much, you can do a lot of similar things in Premiere by bringing in separate layers inside of Premiere and animating things inside of Premiere. But I'm going to start with the triple diamond. Might as well go down to the bunny hill. We'll just go right into it. So in the project area here, when you open up After Effects, you right click and you go import, and you go import file. And then you're going to pick your Illustrator file here. It's super important right down here. Is you don't want to bring it in as footage. You want to bring it as a composition and retain layer styles. And right here, it allows you to create a composition. Okay, that will all make sense in a minute. So I go open, and there it goes. It kicks it in there. All my layers are brought in because I didn't bring it in as footage or merge layers. And then it kicks it in here. It creates this thing called a composition. And it's basically the composition is a timeline. So I double click on this. There's the composition it brought it into. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm here to help you. If it doesn't, this is like kind of like I feel like I'm in turbo mode going through all this. But then here's all your layers down here. So think of right now we're using After Effects, kind of like Illustrator or Photoshop. The layers are down here, except in this program, I have the ability to move things around and animate things much easier. The way you do that is you open up each of the layers here, this transform area, and there's all these kind of weird looking circle things that are it's a stopwatch symbol and it's keyframe. So if I go to my first layer here, the R, and I want it spinning, let's say, here's my rotation, and I can spin the R around. I always joke that the sound effects are free. So I can just click onto my stopwatch. That enables my keyframe. It's called a scrubber. I scrub over here, and I start rotating this if that's what I want. That's the look I want. Move the scrubber back over there, press the space bar, and there I'm spinning the R around. So you've actually moved the letters quickly. Here is where you can zoom in to get a little more control if you need to focus on the keyframes. Closer together, faster it's going to go. Further apart, the slower it goes. That's the premise. Right-click on the keyframe. Down here is called Keyframe Assistant. You can ease in, ease out, and easy ease. What that does is instead of going kerplunk at the very end, it creates this kind of like smoother transition into the end. So there you go. It smooths it in. There, see how that kind of smoothed that in? If that was not easy eased, it would just gone kerplunk and then a sharp stop, right? And here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Now here's my circle, right? So let's say I want my circle moving around. Say if I want the circle coming down, following this line here, right? So I'm going to animate position and scale here. And then I can just kind of drag the position around. I hover over these things. You can just click on it and drag it if you want, but I always find that a bit of a pain, like experience things like I just did there. So I hover over the numbers and just drag them around like this. I find it easier, but you will be working in this program and you can find your own way dealing with all this. And then you could scale it down if you want to, and then move it. And there's the keyframes. Oh, I actually spec'd the wrong. I messed up there. I toggled rotation and not scale. So I'm just going to back that up. Okay, so I'm going to undo rotation. I need to go back here to scale. There we go. So I got the scale right. Move the scale down a bit. And there you go. So then what if I want my R still attached to the circle here, right? because I got the circle moving and this spinning, but darn, I wanted the R in the green circle the entire time. You do this thing called connecting. Well, you can think of it as connecting. It's called parenting, actually. There's little curlicues here. And you grab the curlicue and you attach the R to the circle, and now they're linked together. So it does that. So that's how you can link shapes together, okay? And boom. That could be moving. You could be, let's say, you wanted this. I'm going to show you the next thing. You wanted the blue, say, stationary, and you want it fading in, right? You don't want the animation starting with the blue. So you animate opacity in that case. I'm going to go 0 opacity. It was going to disappear temporarily. Click the keyframe for the opacity, drag that over, and then go to 100. And now you've keyframed the opacity. There you go. So that should give you lots of ideas. That's, about rotation, opacity, position, scale, keyframing, linking layers together if you want them and do one thing animating in one way but attached to it and it being the parent layer. Now you know how to do all that.